if they're not already. And again, starting at the beginning, just until we're sure everyone's back with us. Gentle circles on the top of the head in both directions. And then with the fingertips, tracing back over the scalp. And then rubbing the back of the head. Good review anyway. Ideally rubbing until things are warm and circulated. Scrubbing the back of the neck, the base of the skull, as well as the base of the spine, base of the neck, top of the thoracic spine, the sides, both sides. Taking your time. And then, again to the front. Palms nice and warm. Just one time, heat soaking into the eyes, softening around the eyes, that space behind the eyes, and gently pulling off to the sides. Fingertips massaging. And then gently scrubbing up and down. And then around the orbit of the eye, both directions. Massaging the temple alongside the eye. I think this is where we left off. So take the time to soften this area here, just on the outside of the orbit of the eye. Pressing just enough to warm and melt the space beneath the skin. If you were to imagine that we had a layer of butter beneath the skin and we were trying to apply movement and heat to it to allow it to spread and thin. That's this shape that we're creating in the body. And the same with the corner of the jaw. If you were to make a sharp angle out of your jaw, move in from the angle a little bit on top of the musculature there, and very gently rotating the skin, softening the space beneath without creating pressure. You're not trying to do some kind of deep massage, despite the name of the set. This is more of a melting massage. Going back to the original premise of spending a bit more time on each of these points. In both directions. As your hands are lifted, make sure that your neck is soft, your shoulders are released, your jaw is soft. And then massaging that point just in front of the ear. There's a soft piece of cartilage that sticks out called the tragus. The point where the ear connects to the jaw. Some gentle circles in that space, opening, softening. It can be useful for you to slightly open your jaw, which helps to open that point. Although it might look a little funny on camera. In both directions. And then massaging from that point in the jaw all the way up and down in front of the ear, and one finger behind the ear, massaging up and down along the ridge behind the ear. And from there, we'll do a series on the ears that I will describe now since you won't be able to hear me. We're going to rub the ears themselves, maybe 36 times, but as a reminder, warming until there's a sense of heat, as though you're pouring oil into the ear, and then warmth radiates back out. You might already begin feeling it. So we will rub the ears themselves up and down comfortably. We will massage the inside of the ears with the fingertips, rub the of the ears, especially the earlobe, with the fingertips, pulling slightly on the ear. And then I'll give more descriptions. Then for the next set, we're going to compress the ears gently. This time, let's do it only 9 times. You can do a few more, but we want to be gentle. Gently compressing the ears to stimulate the space inside. And on the 9th compression, tapping our fingers against the back of our head. I described earlier that there's a way to use the index finger on top of the middle finger to create stronger pressure as it pushes through this threshold here. And we want to tap those points just at the base of the skull and those small hollows at the side of the neck. Gallbladder 20 again, if you'd like to. And then we're going to scrub the hands one more time, get them nice and warm, and we're going to circle the whole face, emphasizing the directions that spread away from this scrunching that we do toward the center of our face. Spread that out, circle all the way around in both directions. Again, until your face feels warm, well-loved. Good to make sure that your hands are clean before doing that. And then working on the sides of the neck, using the knuckles, gently pulling forward and down along this bundle of tissue and artery and vein and sinew that travels all the way down. You can soften your jaw, which can help with that. And then with the fingertips, gently raking, not pushing hard. You're not trying to change the tissue beneath, just warm and soften it. All the way down to the collarbone. And then pulling down to the navel. Just make sure nothing's trapped in the face. A moment of closing, letting everything sink. Hands resting on top of the navel. Awareness coming to rest in that space beneath the hands, either in the navel, in the spine, opposite the navel, or ideally just in between the two. Just a few breaths of meditation, allowing your awareness to settle. We'll begin including that more often in this form as well. Now we're going to begin moving outward and down along the arm. Doesn't matter which you begin with. Using your fingers, gently massaging the space just in the front of the shoulder. And then beneath the arms.
91D Gross says, hey guys, I'm at work on lunch break. Wish I could join. I will save this for later.
Thanks. Yeah. Remember that you can always find them all in that spot on Patreon, and they're all grouped there. Feel free to watch them. Chris mentioned he's been watching them twice a day. So feel free. Glad you stopped by. Show you my awesome unicorn shirt. Very fancy. Then moving to the top of the shoulder. Again, gentle pressure, just the weight of your hand, sinking beneath the skin, warming that space beneath. Gentle circles. And then on the shoulder joint itself, the upper arm, Melanie's amazing about helping in the comment section. So she's so shy, you may never get to see her on camera, but do send her appreciation for always making everything possible.
What's the link to where people can look at your shirts if they want to?
Oh, well, there's a link that goes through the website. snakeandturtle.com is the website. And there's a link to the store there with all the fun shirts. So softening the whole upper arm and then moving to that point at the end of the elbow on the tan side of the arm. Large intestine 11. Gently rolling using the small knuckle of your hand.
We have a question from Corey.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that this practice is usually done seated. Are there any contradictions to doing it standing?
No, not at all. Standing is just fine. Of course, we'll be working on the legs and the feet and things later to find a different posture for, unless you're really good. But for the most part, it's just about being comfortable. You can do it lying down if you'd like to.
Sorry, I meant contraindications.
Contraindications, yeah. That's a good word. And then from this fold point down a little bit further, large intestine 10, for those of you who are looking it up, arm through miles, shosanri. Gently circling, opening the space, especially good for people who have been spending lots of time on the computer. Warming. Again, you're not trying to do deep massage. You're trying to soften the space. And then the inside of the elbow. That soft cave there in the inner elbow. Continuing to allow the movement to mostly travel down toward the fingertips. In this case, toward the thumb and toward the index finger. A lot of these I'm doing 36 times. You can do more or less depending on what's comfortable for you. And then the center of the wrist on both sides, a couple inches above the wrist crease here, in between the tendons on the inside and the center of those two bones on the outside. Not trying to stimulate them strongly, simply allowing the knuckles of your fingers to sink in, warming and softening this area where there tends to be a lot of stress developed. Gentle circles. You can also do the same with the outer line of the arm here, grasping with your fingertips just below the bone, the ulnar bone here. Gently stimulating this line, grasping enough to stimulate several different points here in the small intestine and heart channel. And then this large intestine 4-point, if you squeeze your thumb toward your hand, that soft tissue at the thumb, gentle pressure with your opposite thumb, pressing inward. And as well, if you'd like, there's a point on the opposite hand, just beneath the little knuckle there. Small intestine 3, for those of you looking these points up. And gentle stimulation moving toward each other. You're not trying to compress the muscle against the bone. You're just trying to stimulate the point. Emphasizing movement traveling outward toward the fingers. And then gently squeezing each finger from the base of the digit to the tip, pushing fluid all the way through. Should feel pretty good. And again, if you have any particular joint damage or finger damage, be gentle and spend extra time. This is a way to warm and nourish the tissues of the fingers. There's no muscles in the fingers, which changes how they function. So we want to help blood reach out to the fingertips as much as we can. And then when we're ready, moving to the other side. Remember that a big focus of this practice isn't just in the technique or the points, being relaxed, trying to achieve an outcome, but a lot of what we're doing is practicing loving touch, being gentle and present with ourselves, taking this moment to connect with our physical frame in a non-forceful way. So be kind, take your time. That's a really big part of the healing. And then the space beneath the arm, releasing the part of the shoulder that connects to the rib point in the armpit itself, the heart 1 point. And then the top of the shoulder. Keeping your opposite shoulder nice and relaxed. You don't want to twist or lean. Don't generate more tension to try to relieve tension. That's a cycle you can't win.
Looks like you might have frozen.
Oh. On my screen, it looks fine.
Oh, it does? Okay. Maybe it's just my screen.
Okay. Massaging the arm joint itself. Melanie's screen froze, so if anybody else is freezing, please let us know. Or maybe don't let us know. Maybe that's how we'll know. And then you can massage the elbow itself, the end of the crease in the elbow.
Oh, good. Okay. Corey says that you froze for a blip or two, but they're back now.
Oh, great.
That's good.
Sorry for all the fun technical difficulties. Being very gentle about this process, softening this point here, large intestine 11, and then moving further down. There's this sense again that you're helping the movement reach down toward this second finger. Softening the tissues, warming them without trying to do too much. And then the same, this point here, the center of the elbow crease. Lung 5. Wonderful. The inner and the outer gate. And then the heart and small intestine line on this side of the arm beneath this ulnar bone. I'm just letting go so you can see where I'm grasping. And then large intestine 4, side of the hand. It's a very famous point for helping people relieve the pain of headache, especially frontal headache. And then very gently rectifying the fingers, softening all the way along. You don't have to push too hard. Not a lot of tissue on most fingers. Wonderful. Shaking the hands. Thank you very much. This is my moment of applause. And then down at the sides. You can also shake them as though there's a little bit of water getting off of them. Jazz fingers. Not for any reason. Moving down the torso now. Your arms all the way to your fingertips should feel warm and alive. Get a sense of how they feel so you can notice those places that perhaps you missed and spend a little extra time on them next time. The center of your hand and the center of your chest, warming that sternal area in the center of the chest. And then spend a moment on the solar plexus, this point here at the top of the V of the ribs. I'm just using this part of my thumb pad here, the thenar eminence, to reach in there. And again, very gentle pressure, just the weight of your hand, just enough to sink in below the skin to make a connection and to soften that space, as much with your breath and your intention as with your hand. Both directions. We're including this as part of the set because there was somebody who has a great deal of tension and pain in this area. And if you have special areas that we may skip, then please feel free to add it in. Take some time with those places as we go. That way this becomes your practice set, not just Master ZhiCheng's. And then the space between the navel and the V at the top here. Ren 12, that point name. Both directions. And now that line just beneath the ribs, gently sinking in with your knuckles, softening that area. You might find, for some of you, this is a space that tends to become very tight and uncomfortable during emotional periods. So take the time to help relieve any excess tension that gathered into this space, emphasizing a forward direction. And then raking your fingers along the rib side, letting your fingers sink in a little more deeply, reaching into those spaces between the ribs if you can feel them. The ribs tend to move in this downward direction as you move forward, but it'll be different for everybody, of course. If, like me, you've broken lots of ribs over the years, the extra time doing this, it really does help. Both sides. I'll take this moment to plug books by Corey Lee, sold at fine booksellers everywhere. Wonderful fantasy, slightly science fiction-y author. I've read both of their books so far, and I highly recommend them. It's nice to have famous authors in the audience. And then with your palm rubbing flat over the navel. Warming the points alongside the navel here. Sometimes it'll take a while in these spaces for it to begin to feel warm because cold accumulates here very easily. So please allow that sense of heat to soak in through the navel, through the points alongside the belly. Keep this area warm if you want to live a long time. Both sides. Remember to keep your legs nice and soft. You're just resting. I'm doing 36 on either side here. You can always do more or less. Don't allow your arm to get tired. As you practice all these movements, eventually your arms become very soft and the movements themselves are easy. Next, moving down into that space. This is the inguinal crease, this crease of the gua, where the leg connects. And there's a soft space just in front of the tendons at the tops of the legs. Reach in there and gently massage. Emphasizing, in this case, a downward motion. We are trying to push chi down toward the feet. Next, moving around the waist to the lower back. And as a reminder, as I move my hands around here, what you don't want to do is this, or some variation of the two. Please keep your shoulders soft. If it's too difficult for you to put your palms on your back, use the sides of your hands, use the backs of your hands, or use somebody else's hands. Gently rubbing up and down. Alongside the spine here, the musculature. Gently warming that line. And again, if you find that this is tiring for your arms, take a break. Please don't practice tension. Don't practice force. Go slowly. Get better at being soft and gentle and loving. Letting that heat soak into the tissues and soften the fascial line. You can also go side to side. This is at the level of the navel in your back. Similar to the navel, there's lots of fun points on the sides of the Mingmen, which is the point opposite the navel on the spine. You can also massage the spine itself, emphasizing an upward direction. I'm just placing my fist on my back, my hand over my fist, and gently massaging upward. Then with your fingertips and palms, massaging the tailbone. So your fingertips travel up and down from your back, down your tailbone to the tip of the tailbone. And this, of course, will depend on how you're sitting or standing or lying. But you do want to let the tailbone become nice and warm. This is one of those spaces, again, you want to keep warm. Don't sit on cold surfaces if you can help it. And then massaging out to the sides. Here's this pelvic crest here. Just beneath that line in the very center. Soften that area with your fingertips. And then further down in the center of the glutes. There are lots of different body types. People that have larger body types may find it difficult to reach around if their buttocks are a different shape. Then feel free to sit in a different way or find a way to connect to those points differently. If you have a lot of tissue in those areas, they may also take longer to heat up. But do take the time, it's worth it. Moving down the sides of the legs. Very center of the thigh here. You might find there's a sensitive spot, and just rub gently with your fingers or your palms over those areas, allowing them to get nice and warm. Emphasizing a downward direction. If the sides of your thighs, that IT band tends to be very tight, then please feel free to spend lots of time softening that whole line. But not pushing hard, because it's a very reactive line of the body. Likes to get tight and push back. And then some of my favorite points, moving down to working around the knee. I've had lots of knee damage over the years. These are wonderfully helpful points. Starting on the outside, this corner of the thigh. If you were to draw a line around the shape of the quadricep, I know my pants are black on screen, so it doesn't show much. This is my kneecap, just above the kneecap on the outside of the leg, softening that area. Warm and gentle. Feel it open. And then the same thing on the inside of the leg. So drawing a line along the inside of the kneecap to the top of the knee, the inner line of the knee. And you can also do the entire inner cheek of the knee, that soft area. I'll open my legs just to make it easier to see what I'm doing, but you can sit in whatever way feels comfortable. Reconnecting with your breath, letting go, softening around your whole body, your shoulders, softening your mind. Moving a bit further down the legs. From the end of the kneecap, travel down the shin bone, this bone on the front of the leg. On the outside of that bone, there's a muscle that runs alongside the shin called the anterior tibialis. Go to the very top of the muscle at the base of the knee. And then a little bit further down, in the very center of the muscle, the belly of the muscle there's a soft point. Try to find that point. This is stomach 36. If you're having trouble finding any of these points, write down the name when I say them, and then do a quick search online. And there's lots of tutorials helping acupuncture students find these points. This is a wonderful spot. Spend some time here nourishing the qi. You want to have a sense that heat is pouring into this point. You can use your palms or your fingertips. It really depends on how you're sitting and how you're comfortable. To answer one question that somebody asked earlier is about, if I'm stiff and I have trouble reaching my lower body, does that mean I should spend more time in my upper body? And then generally you want to treat the whole body because the whole body is connected. And there is an influence that we could say that we tend to age from the feet upward. And so as far as health and movement is concerned, we want to heal the legs. So we start at the top and work our way down to help draw the qi down into the legs. So you want to make sure that you spend at least some time treating your legs, ideally your whole body. Moving to the outside, point on the side of the leg near the one we were just doing, gallbladder 34. We explored how to find that a bit yesterday. Circling your hands or pressing in with your fingers, whichever you like. Emphasizing a downward direction, helping circulation toward the feet. There's misconceptions that because we do these points on the legs, for instance, this is the gallbladder channel, we're working gallbladder points on the legs, but the gallbladder points continue all the way up to the top of the head. In fact, some of those ear points we were working on are part of that channel. So a lot of these channels traverse the whole body, so don't be confused. Now moving to the space at the back of the knee. This crease of the knee, the popliteal crease, you'll feel two tendons back behind the knee. Reach to that soft space between them. You can get in there and massage that with your fingertips if you'd like. This is the urinary bladder 40 point. Wonderful for low back pain in particular. We're going to move across it horizontally. Stimulating that point, helping to soften the sinews on either side. In Chinese medicine, this is one of the main points for lower back pain that we use.
Can we do this one with our legs extended, or does that have a different effect?
No, as long as you are stimulating the point and it's comfortable. You're not hurting your lower back trying to relax your lower back. Yeah, everybody is so different. We have to find the postures that work for us. What I'm hoping people will find is if they do the full 100 days of this practice, that at the end of it, they're far more flexible. Even though we haven't spent time stretching, we become flexible because our bodies soften and we're able to do much more. And so that's the goal. We're softening and lengthening, spreading the tissues out through gentleness rather than pushing and pulling on them. So now all of those points we were just working around the knee, except for this one behind it, we're going to circle all the way around the knee. Stimulating those points, circling using this Lao Gong point, this point in the center of the hand, circling around the kneecap. if you're comfortable finding those points in your legs, over time, you'll notice I'm using my fingers to stimulate each of those points as I go around the circle. It takes a bit of practice. We're going to do this 36 times in one direction, 36 times in the other, and then we'll return a little bit. But you could triple that amount and it would be very good for your knees. Both directions, and one more time back in the original direction. It's nice to end going down the outside, up the inside. Oh, one last one here, with the fingertips raking up tissue on the front of the leg, pulling up above the level of the kneecap. Just using the weight of the fingers. As though you were wearing silk long underwear beneath your pants, and they're moving down your legs and you're trying to pull them back up beneath your pants. And then this next part again can change dependent upon how you're sitting. Yesterday I did this very different than I'll do it today. I'm going to place one foot on top of my other here. And the space that we are going to reach into is the space behind the calf muscle. So if you were to look at the back of somebody's calf muscle and see that V of musculature, move your thumbs to the top of that V, the space between, and dip your fingers a bit more deeply into the body than useful to reach that layer of musculature beneath the outer calf. And if it's very tender, go slowly and spend extra time there, moving the fingers around, gentle circles. You're still trying to soften rather than aggravate.
Are you under the calf right now, or are you on top, like on the inside?
Under the calf,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there's this V of the calf muscle that comes up, and just at the top of the V, but underneath that muscle. Because there's two layers of musculature. There's the gastrocnemius, which is this big muscle on top.
Right.
And then there's a layer of muscle beneath that we're trying to reach called the soleus. And that's where you're settling into. You'll feel the Achilles beneath your fingers in that point.
Thank you.
Sure. And you can also work your way all the way down toward the heel. And if your hands are big enough, you can also massage this line of musculature that is near the shin bone while you're pressing in on the sides into the calf and following down the Achilles. If this feels like a lot to do at once, don't worry about it. Just do one at a time. It's perfectly fine. Using a bit more pressure with this one than for 95% of this practice. You can also grab and pluck across the body of the calf muscle this way. Just to help relieve any tension that you might find there. Because of the way people stand and move, this area of the body develops so much rock hard tension that we're trying to help it be easy to release fluid retention and swelling. Working all the way down to the heel. Now moving on to this spleen 6 point. If you find the tip of your inner ankle bone, this medial malleolus here, and just place your fingers across it with the edge of the tip of the ankle bone on the outside of your little finger. And then just draw a line across your knuckles and the very top point above that hand. That's the appropriate distance up, more or less. Be on this side of the bone, in the soft place on this side of the bone. That's spleen 6. You massage that point either with your fingertips or your palm. This is another one of those areas that might be very sore if somebody menstruates or is pregnant. So not menstruating, but tends to be very reactive to that cycle. Make it warm and soft. This is the 3 yin crossing. All of these different tissues from different part of your leg come together at this point, and we want to soften and nourish those sinews. You can also allow this movement to travel around beneath the ankle, warming that whole area. More of my fancy socks. I highly recommend the Awesome Socks Club. It's a charity. They do wonderful work, and they send you a lot of very funny socks. And then the point in the bottom of the foot. We're going to work along this whole line here at the bottom of the foot. We'll work on the side of the foot here toward the big toe, and the tendons on the top of the foot that run from the big toe and the second toe, that space between those two tendons. We're going to move up and down. So the thumb in the bottom of the foot, the palm on the top of the foot, the fingertips nestled between those two tendons, emphasizing a downward motion toward the toes and an inward motion with the heat. Kidney 1, spleen 3, liver 3, these areas. Next side. Again, please do adjust how you're sitting so that you are comfortable. We're just getting to the points. It doesn't matter how we get to them. Like I said yesterday, I was in a completely different posture. Find what works for you in this moment without adding tension or discomfort to your body. Massaging deep into the center of the calf muscle, working your way down the Achilles, softening that muscle along the shin. For those of you that have continued doing this, you may already know that there's a lot less discomfort as you press into these otherwise stagnant areas. And that's this healing process that you'll be able to watch as you continue. And then squeeze the calf itself. Just grasping the calf between your fingers. Softening any hardness that might be there. Warming spleen 6 and the kidney points beneath the ankle. You want to avoid crouching and rounding or tightening your shoulders. Maintain this level of softness that we've been cultivating throughout the entire process. And then points on the feet, especially the bottom of the foot. But all three of these lines are useful and helpful, helping to move down toward the toes. And if you're fancy and know about points, you can stimulate gallbladder 41 with your opposite hand. I'm pretty fancy. Feeling pretty good? Take that as a yes. Move some things around here. I'm going to sit on the ground, but you find a place that's comfortable for you. Pour tea is good. Get nice and comfortable. Allow your body to be soft. You don't have to sit on the ground like this. It may even be easier if you're sitting on something so your hips are a bit higher. That will allow your back to relax a little bit more. You can do this sitting on the edge of a chair. You can sit on a bed. You can lie on a bed. It's fine. First, begin softening your legs a little bit. Just wiggle around. And now, circling the toes. We worked on this more specifically the last few days. Circling your toes. Moving your toes, grasping with your feet slightly. Your knees are circling your hips, allowing for movement to happen in these sitting bones that are in connection with the ground. Especially if you're just waking up, your body might be extra stiff, or if you're very tired and it's the end of your day. So be gentle and just allow your body to warm up to the movement. And doing 36 of these in this direction, then we'll go back in the other direction. Both directions. I just had a very interesting pop from my knee, and it took a little while to get there. That's one reason to have lots of repetitions of these things, very gentle repetitions, because sometimes it takes a while for your body to make an adjustment. Rotating your toes. You can be vigorous enough to move around if you'd like. Wonderful. Shake yourself out if you need to. Let's see how much time we have. Oh, great. So the next one, we're going to let our hands lift up, and then I'm going to just fall down below my knees here a little bit. Raking upward like we practiced earlier. Reach down and grab. Your thumb is turned down. In the same way that you're going to grab with your hands, grab with your feet. Lifting up toward the back, softening up the spine, shoulders are relaxed. Hands press up comfortably above your head, and then again, falling forward. Only as far as feels comfortable. I'll go a little bit further each time, but you only go as far as feels comfortable. When you come down, avoid clenching with your thighs to pull you forward. Instead, lengthen forward, relaxing your legs. As I reach forward, I'm softening the length of my legs, so my legs are going that way as they lengthen, and my upper body is going this way. So you're softening long in both directions. That's how this softening process is releasing your body. If you fold yourself downward, you end up compressing and ending up in your own way. So we'll do this one 9 times, slowly increasing the number of repetitions, but do avoid overdoing it, please. For the flexible people, it's as though eventually the centers of your palms rest on those kidney 1 points as you soften over. I'll do it one more time. Sitting in a comfortable position. And then when you're ready, we're going to turn the waist side to side, not the shoulders, not the head. You're not going to twist or lean, but you're going to rest your hands in the center of your chest and very gently shake the pillar so that your whole spine softens and twists. This is an important kind of thing to do after doing something like that last practice, strengthening the kidneys. And then let the movement go, and very slowly it will pass its way out of you. And I'd like to begin introducing a few new movements, but we do want to be careful because if we overdo them, they can reintroduce tension to the neck and throat, and we don't want to do that. So the first one I'll introduce is clicking the teeth together. Like that. Move your mouth around so that all of your teeth get some contact. If you have special dental concerns, please don't hurt your teeth or do anything strange. Be careful. If your teeth are comfortable and normal, simply click all of your teeth together. Like that. And then swallow any saliva that has gathered in your throat. You may feel that saliva sink down, and you can follow the movement of the swallowing action, the chi of the swallow, all the way down to that space behind your navel. That's a helpful way to sink the chi. We'll slowly be introducing more movements from that mouth set, but that's a good way to begin without adding too much tension. And then just a moment of meditation, sitting in any way that feels comfortable. Allow your body to settle to feel released. And for just a few breaths, let your body become quiet, your mind become still, paying attention to that space just beneath the skin, around the whole body, noticing the warmth and softness of the whole body that we've been developing over the last 90 minutes. And then some extra awareness resting in or behind the navel. The central point of all of our practice is this deep cultivation of stillness. So I always begin and end with this practice. Thank you very much. Any questions? We have Melanie manning the phone lines behind us.
Yes.
Call in with your credit cards today. Usually takes a few minutes to get any questions through. In the meantime, I will drink more tea.
Corey says thank you.
Hey, you made it through the whole thing. That's great. Nice to almost see you. Nice to be seen.
They said that they couldn't get themselves to leave because it was so wonderful.
Yay! Now get back to writing so I can read the third book. No other questions? Oh.
Yes. For new people, would you recommend they start on day one or pick up where you were live?
Oh, good question. Well, it's always nice to have you in the live classes, of course. And the first day, we went over the basic principles, how to feel the various layers of the body, that kind of thing. How to, in the second class, how to tune your awareness to this idea of loving touch and gentle presence, these kinds of qualities. And so every day I'm trying to make the classes a little bit different, focusing on a different thing. So it is nice if you have the chance to watch them, but you've also been doing these practices with ZhiCheng Shifu for a while now, so I'm pretty sure you have the basic idea. And I think that you've even done these in the retreat. And so I think that you're fine to just join us. And in fact, if you have any insights or recommendations for other new people, we would love it if you'd share them. Because this is all the same Hunyuan system. And that quality of cultivation of depth and comfort is so important. And so as many voices as we have adding in that reminder, whether it's from Melanie in the background or others, it's always useful to have community.
And Corey says, more writing soon.
No pressure. I'm just waiting to see what happens next.
Okay. Chris asks, is focusing more on the lower body better for helping pull the chi down?
Yes. So that's kind of what I was getting at with talking about spending time on the legs. It is very useful to work your way from the top down, but because some people have the tendency to hyper focus on certain areas, sometimes what happens is they start at the top and then they never make their way down. And so all that does is, while it does maybe soften some of the areas they're working on, it tends to leave the chi up. And so if you're only going to a few minutes or on a few places, for people that have a lot of energy upward, it is better to focus on, the belly or the feet or something like that to help the chi sink down, especially if it's just before bed, because we all want to go to bed and rest really well when they go to bed. in case you might have difficulty with that kind of thing. And so the answer is yes, that if you're only going to do a few points, focus on the lower part of the body. If you have the time to soften through the whole body, start at the top, and at a moderate pace, work your way down so you're not spending too much time up here.
Steph says, this practice feels different for me from the snake and turtle set in that it's more focused on the outer layer of the body as opposed to deeper inside the body.
Mm-hmm. That is true, that we are working on this very particular layer of release that it does help to open to deeper layers. One of the ways that we help to find our way into the depths of the body is to release the stagnation that tends to be on the outside so that we can begin more easily to find the spaces between. But a lot of the channels that run throughout the body that we tend to use in something like acupuncture are often very superficial, and then the channels dive deep. And so part of what we're doing is we're gathering the yang at the surface and allowing it to sink into those spaces through the channels, through the caves of the points, and hopefully affecting deeper levels. And then a lot of the depth comes from the shape of the mind, the shape of the heart during the practice. But you're right that all Qigong practices work at a different level. For those of you who haven't done it, the snake and turtle Qigong set is more focused on whole body movement and especially emphasizing healing the back and the spine. But every practice works on a slightly different layer. And so I'm glad that you noticed it. And sometimes one feels really good, sometimes another feels good. One of the reasons we do a set like this for 100 days is to make this deep change in this layer of the tissues. And then hopefully that sticks around longer and makes a long-lasting change, and we can work on other aspects of the body.
Yeah, Steph's follow-up question was, what are the different benefits? But it sounds like you may have just answered that.
Okay, good. Yeah. And I will prescribe different sets to different people depending on what's going on. But people that are cultivating their whole system in a Qigong method focus on all of the different parts, and we tend to hyper-focus in, for instance, the shoulder set that we've spent time on, or the neck series, where we're just trying to release those areas. And so it becomes a miniature Qigong set just for the shoulders. But that, of course, isn't the whole focus. It's that we're trying to help the shoulders become through so that they can be integrated with the rest of the body. Or if I do heavy Qi development in the Danxian to kickstart the development of this area, this energetic center, this anchor, once that is kickstarted, then I can begin to integrate other practices in with that space or in with my newly softened shoulders. And so sometimes we focus on specific ones because people really need that one. But as part is more of the whole cultivation system and the curriculum that they're trying to set up, or that is with Master ZhiCheng, we tend to work systematically, often from the top down and from the outside inside. But of course, we also want to cultivate from the inside as well. There's a classic Daoist statement that you want to, it's Xingbing Shuangxiu, you want to cultivate both the maybe we call it the spiritual and the physical, like the mental, emotional health, at the same time that we cultivate the body. And different people focus on different things, but within our system, we're trying to cultivate in the holistic way, the way that you would cultivate a garden. You might just work on the soil, but really you can't have a garden unless everything is growing together. You need the water too. And the sun, which we don't really have here.
Not today.
Not today.
So in a lot of ZhiCheng Shifu's Qigong classes, we place our awareness, our intent in the Dantian. Am I correct to assume that in this practice, we want to place our awareness in the areas that we're moving?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So I'm assuming that you heard that. And a way to think about it is that the primary intent of the practice is, for instance, softening this area of the tissue, or maybe softening here. And ZhiCheng Shifu uses a wonderful example of if you were working at a desk and someone opened the window nearby and you had papers on your desk. Corey is writing their book, and suddenly the papers begin to flutter because, of course, they're writing by hand or with an old typewriter. In my imagination, that's what's happening. And they whip off the last page of the book and they put it on top of the pile, and then a family member comes by and opens the window and the wind starts to come in. And so Corey wants to continue working, but places one hand on the pile of papers to keep it from fluttering around and blowing away. And so maybe Corey is still doing their thing and writing and, writing a whole foreword and preface, dedicating the book to me, maybe just a suggestion. And during that time, there is still some awareness in the pile. You're still settled here and stabilized here while you're doing things. So most of your intent is here, but there's some part of you that is not letting this go. Not because you're pushing hard, but you're just slightly aware there. And the same is true with the cultivation of this middle dantian, that you can have a little bit of your awareness resting here. You're always stabilized here while you're working on these specific things. And so really, both are true at once. If that answers the question.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the peanut gallery? Always a pause between what you see and what we see, so I'm just waiting a moment. Thank you very much. I love that you all joined me. See you tomorrow, and enjoy your practice. Yay!
Oh, we have a question.
Oh.
Chris asks, how long does the anchor take to start developing?
The anchor of the dantian says, wait.
Yeah.
The anchor, it's different for everybody, of course. And so it's like saying, how long does it take to strengthen your core? Or how long does it take to lose excess weight or something like that? It takes as long as it does, and it depends on how much effort you put into it. I've heard people say that they fire up and open the dantian over the course of a few weeks. And I've heard people say that they've been working at it for years. Although I would say they're pushing their mind instead of resting their mind. And if you push your mind, that just creates problems. So all of those qualities have to be there. And so it's one of those things that it seems to be very difficult to answer. But I have faith in you. But the most important thing to do, you cannot develop an anchor in your dantian until your mind can come to rest. Because that is what allows the qi to cultivate and develop and your body to settle, and then your qi to settle. And so there are practices that we do, like the gathering or like this closing, that are constantly stimulating that area. And so you have to spend enough time with that for that area to begin to develop qualities of gathering, and that will help the mind to become stable. But at the same time, again, that internal, external at the same time, you want to, as much as you can, if the mind gets crazy and starts to make noise, you just let it make noise. You let it drift by you, and your awareness stays relatively stable. And in this case, it would stay relatively stable here. And so both of those qualities will help the mind and the chi to begin to sync. But of course, that also requires enough rest, enough food, enough movement, not holding the breath, all of those qualities, not being in a frantic state, not being cold. And so as long as all of those pieces are in place, then the chi can sync and things will start to develop.
Follow-up question from Chris. And the practice is putting your mind on the belly and resting it there quietly. And the first exercise of snake and turtle.
That's right. Yes.
Belly circles.
And belly circles. Yeah, belly circles in that case, that's more like your mind moving, not in the dantian, but around through the abdomen. But when we do this, or even if you're just standing there and your awareness is resting or settling here, or if you're sitting and doing a little bit of meditation, those practices all help to allow the chi to coalesce in those places.
And so as that anchor develops, can we expect to start feeling more sensation in the dantian if it's like really frozen for some of us right now?
Yeah. And we shouldn't, there are often very common sensations that people get as the dantian develops, this energetic center here in the middle. And there's names for it. And my experience of it was also very, very common. But I don't want to say what you're supposed to feel, because then what happens is people end up imagining or creating the sensations without actually affecting their dantian. And so you can self-hypnotize and you can imagine things that aren't real. And so let me know if you start to experience changes there. But it has to come through this quiet settling and just gentle cultivation of the mind, the body, all of these factors coming together in the center of the body. And then that's what makes the change. And then suddenly it's easier for your mind to settle. Your heart becomes very calm. Your body becomes very full and your health changes, because all of these things happen together. That's the beauty of the Daoist system. But you want to be careful not to imagine or to push or to try, because those qualities, that clenching of the mind, is the thing that draws your chi out and pushes it to the outside and develops tension and causes all of these problems. So that first function of learning to soften the mind and to not do it, to don't, that process is super important.
So can we say it's the difference between observing sensations as they arise and seeking them?
That's right. Want to say that louder?
I'll let you hear.
Again, we have all these wonderfully skilled people. Belly circles, yes. Especially if you're pregnant. Belly circles. One of you is circling on the outside, one of you is circling on the inside as a high-level skill. And so what Mel is mentioning is the difference between quiet observation, where you're just present and attentive, versus clenching and intentive. The difference between intent and perhaps atent. One where you're just aware, and one where your mind is trying to make things happen. What we want is the one that's the passive, the undoing, the non-doing. And your intent is very quiet. It's there. They call it intentless intent. Ibui. It's this quality of just being free but present. And that's what we're developing. It's this best of both worlds experience.
Steph says the one on the inside is doing flips and kicks.
The beginning martial arts. She's going to be a hellion. Sounds about right. Okay. Thank you, friends. Great questions.